Here because we want to tell you that on Saturday the 17th, the first public meeting regarding the very, very important draft supplemental environmental impact statement will be held at Ukadu High School in Dedido. Now, joining me now with more perspective on this is a member of the military, the United States Marine Corps, and a proud Marine, Major Darren Alvarez. Major, always good to see you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this because you reached out to us, and very wisely so, and we've talked about this, off camera and everything like that. And there seems to be a bit of a misconception about exactly what the scope of responsibility will be and exactly what types of territories will be affected and the land. So let's go ahead and break that down.
Okay, so what we're talking about is the actual preferred alternative that the Navy and the Marine Corps have figured out, which is in this draft supplemental environmental impact study, or statement, excuse me. The two locations you've got NCTS Finnegagen for the cantonment, where base housing and the cantonment, the main side would be where the Marines actually live, where they work. And then there's also a live fire training range component. Now, where that is currently sited with the preferred alternative is located at Northwest Field, and where that is actually on Anderson Air Force Base. Now, it's up on a cliff, and I actually brought a graphic to show where exactly it is. Mm-hmm. So what this does is this shows a 3D image of the top of the cliff. That's where the actual range itself will go. Now, there is associated with the range what's called a surface danger zone. Now, what that is it's a safety buffer area. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a restriction on time. So we don't want people down there or in certain areas when those ranges are being used. Now, what that is to prevent is an errant round flying off the range, either through a ricochet or some misfire or something like that, and possibly hitting someone. Now, that is an incredibly low possibility, and it's written in the EIS of what the possibility is. It's pretty astronomical. Mm-hmm. However, it's important to know. Now, what the kind of misconceptions that are out there is the fact that it would be, if the preferred alternative goes there, that it is shutting down the entire Ritidian refuge. And that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to show is the fact that here on the top portion, what it shows is the red area. Right now, Fish and Wildlife controls that area. That red area is always off limits to the public. Mm-hmm. Okay, the public is not allowed to go in there. Now, the green area on the right is the area that would remain open at all times, and the small area where it has yellow is the area that the SDZ, the surface danger zone, while this range is active, would impede access. So what that means is people shouldn't be down there at that time. That only accounts for 11% of the beach. Mm-hmm. So it's a very small area. We're talking about less than 2,000 feet of the beach line down there, where you have almost 5,000 feet, which is still open to the public.
Mm-hmm. And how much lead time would be given, when an exercise would be conducted, and how much, a few days, a few hours, or of course you'd work with the media and we get the word out, hey, there's going to be an exercise, so that part of the beach is going to be closed. Because like in Hawaii they do this kind of thing, and there's an exercise range there in the northern part of the island. I remember
Absolutely.
that well.
So these are things that we're going to be working through, and the fact is we still have to get through our procedures of how we're going to tell everybody. But it's incredibly important for the public to know. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not just those beach access areas, but it is the water around it as well. While the SDZ is hot, nobody is allowed to go through that area with a boat. Mm-hmm. So those are real impacts. Mm-hmm. Those are real issues. Now, again, there's another misconception. Impacts. What we're dealing with is NEPA, the National Historic Preservation Act. And what we're dealing with, the National Environmental Protective Act. Now, what we talk about is impacts. A lot of people confuse what an impact is. Okay, when we use impacts with NEPA, it's talking about we have affected that area in one way or another, whether it's a direct impact or an indirect impact. This would be an indirect impact where it's a time restriction. So what it really means is rounds are not going to be falling down there, but for safety purposes, we'll keep that area closed.
Mm-hmm. Now, what type of information or, let's say, criticism have you been receiving from the community at large right now, and maybe just your average Guamanian citizen, as well as leaders in the highest offices of government, as well as the media?
Well, of course, people are worried. People are worried. They don't like the idea of having a recreation area that they've used for many, many years to be limited to them, and it's totally understandable. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was a big deal for us to come out and say exactly what we're doing. There's some misconceptions out there. Some people think that for some reason the entire refuge would be closed when the range was active. That's not true. Even when it was active, the small range that was dealing with that area, again, you still have almost 5,000 feet of beach that would remain open under Fish and Wildlife. So they still have their hours of restriction. Right now it's already limited from 8:30 to 4. Some of the other questions that we get are what mitigations we're going to have, and all those are in the EIS. The last thing I want to leave you with is, again, this is the preferred alternative. There are still 4 other alternatives that are on the table. This is the preferred, which means it is the best that we can find out of all the options that meets the statutory requirements.
Uncle Sam isn't just betting the farm on this one particular strategy. There are other contingency plans, or maybe not contingency,
That's
but
correct.
for okay. Real quick before we go to a commercial break, because this is fascinating, and certainly we could go on, for hours talking about this. When you say live fire, what type of fire are we dealing with, and what kinds of noise impact will they have on like adjacent areas? Because like you fire a round, if it's a 50 caliber, if it's a maybe artillery or something like that, that can be heard for many miles away.
Right. What these ranges are designed for is small arms. So that is 50 caliber machine gun and below. So standard small arms, rifle, pistol. There's no artillery that's planned to be here. We have no intention of taking artillery. There's no explosives that are being used in this area whatsoever. And actually the noise contours for all of our ranges, this one included, is in the SEIS. And it really does not affect, most especially, any neighborhoods or anything else around. It's one of the many reasons why this is the preferred alternative. It's away from where people live. It's on federal property, which we were asked to make sure that we were on federal property. The SDZ is over federal property as well. It doesn't affect any of the landowners that own property there, nor their access in and out of their own land.
All right. Well, Major, thanks so much. That's going to be the first public hearing once again on the 17th. You certainly have your work cut out for you, but certainly you're going to be open to interacting with the community and making sure that everybody has an informed decision to make.
Absolutely. And again, we encourage people to come out and make as many comments as they would like, for or against. That's okay. All that helps us to make this process better.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Major.
Thank you.
All right. An officer and a gentleman, Major Darren Alvarez with the U.S. Marine Corps. Stay tuned. We are back after this.